The human fleet moved through dark space like silent ghosts. After the battle, they had vanished again, just as planned. No signals, no lights, no trail. They didn't have the strength to fight another battle. Not yet. General Rourke stood on the bridge of the Vanguard, staring at a new set of coordinates. It was a cold system, far beyond normal patrol routes, a place forgotten by the galaxy. But Lucius, the AI, confirmed what the old Earth files suggested. This was one of the Ember colonies, hidden, secret, maybe even untouched by the Zarth. Rourke pressed a command. The rest of the small fleet, 4 damaged ships and 3 supply vessels, moved behind him in formation. Everyone, stay quiet. No transmissions, no energy spikes, he ordered. As they entered the system, the first thing they saw was silence. A frozen world, covered in ice and dust. No signs of ships, no defense satellites, no life. But the scanners picked up something. Deep below the surface, there's power under the ice, Lucius reported. Old, faint, human. Rourke felt hope stir in his chest. They sent down a scout shuttle. Mira, Jamie, and 2 engineers joined the team. The shuttle landed with a soft crunch on the icy ground. Wind howled outside, and static filled their comms. Myra looked out the window. Nothing but endless white. But the scanner blinked red. 10 meters below them, a structure, using plasma cutters. They melted a path through the thick ice. Steam rose as they dug deeper, and then metal. A hatch dot. It was old, rusted, but human-made. Jamie stepped closer, his eyes wide. We found it. The hatch hissed open, slowly, like the bunker was breathing after a long sleep. Inside was a long, dark tunnel. Lights flickered on as they entered. Faded symbols marked the walls. Earth banners. Military codes. They reached a large central room. Frozen crates of weapons, racks of old gear, even small dropships still covered in frost. It was a hidden military base, been tanned, but not destroyed. One of the engineers gasped. This was built for war. Then a voice echoed from a wall speaker. Broken, robotic, human presence. Detected, then raised their weapons, but no one attacked. A door opened. Inside was a control room. A glowing blue sphere hovered above. A console. Another AI. I am OMEGA, it said. Welcome home. Mira stepped forward. How long have you been here? 306 years. Awaiting orders. Defense mode on standby. Rourke arrived from the main ship. He stared at the AI and then at the sleeping facility. Can it still function? Omega answered. Partially. 70% of weapons operational. 1 launch bay intact. Food supplies stable. They had found not just a base but a chance to fight back. Later, the survivors began moving supplies down. Children were taken to warm chambers. Soldiers helped restore the power grid. The Ember colony, silent for centuries, was alive again. But then came the warning. Lucius picked up a signal from orbit. A Zarth probe had entered the system. They had been followed. Can they track us here? Mira asked. Not yet, Rourke said. But if they scan long enough, they'll find us. They had a decision to make: hide or strike first. Rourke stood before the crew. I won't let another Earth fall, he said. We hit them before they report back. The old launch bay opened. 1 dropship still worked. It's rusted, but armed. Myra volunteered to fly it. Jamie begged to go too. Rourke said no. The dropship rose from the ice like a phoenix. Silent, deadly, dot above. The Zarth probe hovered, scanning the planet. Mira fired. A single plasma missile burned through the stars. The probe exploded into fire. No signal escaped, but Rourke knew it was only a matter of time before more came. Still, they had won again. Small victories, and now a base. A beginning. Later that night, Jamie sat with Mira under the stars, looking up through the glass ceiling of the base. "Do you think we'll win?" he asked. Myra didn't lie. "I don't know." Then she smiled and looked at the stars. "But I think they're about to remember who we are." The hidden base under the ice was no longer silent. Machines came alive. Lights returned to full power. Engineers moved through the tunnels, repairing old systems. Soldiers trained again. Children played in the old cafeteria, now warmed by recycled heat. For the first time in months, there was life, laughter, even hope. But it would not last. High above the icy planet, a Zarth recon cruiser drifted into orbit. It had been looking for signs of survivors for weeks. And now, it saw what no one in the Zarth Dominion expected: a destroyed probe, just floating. Commander Drac of the cruiser narrowed his eyes. No species in this system. No active colonies. How did our probe get destroyed? He ordered a full scan. The cruiser's sensors swept the planet's surface. At first, it found nothing. Frozen storms and dead ice. Then, heat signatures. Deep below. "Something is down there," the officer said. "Power readings. Possibly human." Drac's face twisted. "Impossible. Earth is gone." Still, the readings were clear. Drac contacted High Command, but they gave a cold reply. "Investigate. If human survivors remain, cleanse them." Inside the Ember colony, alarms blared. Lucis spoke first. "Enemy ship in orbit. Zarth design. Cruiser class. They are scanning." Rourke didn't hesitate. "Shut everything down. Mask our heat. Lock all doors." But it was too late. The Zarth cruiser dropped a stealth drone into the atmosphere. It pierced through the wind and storm and landed quietly on the ice. Unseen. Omega detected it first. Unauthorized object entering perimeter. A security drone moved to intercept, but it was destroyed in seconds. The Zarth probe reached the main hatch and began cutting through. "They found us," Mira said. Rourke stood in the command room. He looked at everyone: soldiers, scientists, even children. "We prepare for war." The Ember base transformed into a fortress. Engineers activated old defense turrets. Weapons were pulled from storage. The last launch bay was repaired and armed. But there was one problem. They were still outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped under a thick layer of ice. If the Zarth cruiser began orbital bombardment, the colony would be crushed. "We need to strike first," Mira said. "Not just defend. We have to hit them." Rourke agreed. "Take the stealth ship. Get above the surface. Jam their systems. We'll launch everything we have." Myra and her team boarded the small stealth vessel. Rourke turned to Jamie. "You stay here. You're smart, and you know these tunnels now. If we fall, you lead them." Jamie's eyes widened. "Pa, but I'm not." "You are," Rourke said. "We don't have time to wait for heroes. We make them." Mira's ship rose into the storm. The Zarth cruiser spotted it immediately. "They're launching," Drac shouted. But it was too late. Mira flew fast and low, her ship bouncing through the storm. Missiles rained down, but she dodged them all. Then she activated the jamming signal back at the base. Turrets powered up. Hidden platforms opened in the ice. The old Earth weapons silent 4 sentries fired again. They struck the Zarth cruiser hard. Fire tore through its engines. Alarms blared on the enemy bridge. Drac growled. "It's not possible. They're just survivors." But they weren't just survivors anymore. They were warriors again. Omega launched drone swarms from the base. Dozens of small, fast machines flew into the sky, tearing through the Zarth fighters. On the ground, human soldiers pushed out of the base, using hoverbikes and armored suits found deep in storage. They fought on the ice, driving back the invaders that had landed with drop pods for the first time in the war. The Zarth were retreating, but victory came at a price. Myra's ship was hit during the final run. Smoke filled the cockpit. She turned. To her co-pilot, "We have to finish this." She flew straight into the enemy cruiser's weapons bay and fired her last missiles. The explosion lit up the sky. From the ground, the humans saw fire rain down as the Zarth ship broke apart in orbit. Cheers echoed through the base. Some cried. Others just stood in silence. Rourke looked up, knowing they had only won one battle. The war was not over. But now, the galaxy knew. Earth still had teeth. They weren't finished. The light grew closer with each passing hour. It was no star, no planet, no ordinary ship. It moved like a shadow fast, silent, with purpose. The survivors watched from their small windows as the unknown object approached. Some were scared. Others whispered that it was the end. But General Rourke stood tall on the bridge, his eyes sharp and steady. He knew what was coming. The AI confirmed it. Vanguard arriving in 3 hours. Rourke nodded. "Wake the teams. I want everyone ready." In the ship's lower decks, Mira helped Jamie to sit up. He looked better, now still weak, but his fever had lowered. She told him the news. "Something big is coming. The general says it's a human ship, a powerful one." Jamie's eyes lit up. "Then we're not alone." Mira smiled for the first time in days. "Not anymore." Elsewhere in the fleet, crews scrambled to prepare. Old communication lines were brought back online. Defense systems were armed, even though they knew they were no match for the enemy it found. Still, hope had returned. And hope made people move. The Vanguard finally arrived like a ghost rising from ancient graves. It didn't flash lights, didn't send sound. It simply appeared huge, black, and deadly. Everyone stopped what they were doing and stared. Its surface was smooth like obsidian, but underneath it carried hidden turrets, missile banks, and a weapon core that had been banned by the Galactic Council centuries ago. This ship had not been built to protect. It had been built to end wars. The docking clamps locked onto the lead survivor ship. Rourke entered first. He walked down a long, silent corridor inside the Vanguard. The lights came on only as he moved. At the center of the ship, a voice greeted him. "General Rourke, welcome back." It was Lucius, the ship's AI. Rourke stood tall. Status: all systems functional. Weapons ready. Power at 97%. Waiting for final command. Outside, the other captains saw it all on the screen. The size of the ship, the way it moved, the power it carried. It was clear now humanity had not just escaped. Humanity had planned in. The control center, Lucius opened a hologram of the galaxy. Several red dots blinked across the map. "These are the last known safe havens," the AI said. "Hidden human colonies. Built under Project Ember before Earth fell." Rourke studied the map and the enemy. "Tracking your signal. Zarth destroyers will arrive in 3 days." There was no time left. Rourke called the fleet together. Captains, engineers, medics, even children. He spoke in a clear, steady voice. "This is not the end," he said. "This is the beginning of something greater. The galaxy turned its back on us. But we will not fade quietly. We will regroup. We will rebuild. And one day, we will return." His words echoed through every ship. He pointed to the Vanguard. "This ship is our sword. These survivors are our future. And I promise you, Earth's fire still burns." Myra watched from the back, holding Jamie's hand. She didn't fully understand what was happening, but for the first time, she felt safe. Felt something she hadn't in weeks, pride. But in the darkness of space, Admiral Crix received his own message. The humans. They found something, his officer said. A ship, possibly from the Ember Protocol. Crix's eyes narrowed. "Where?" "We're still searching, but the signal is moving fast." Crix leaned forward. Send every hunter. Find the Ember ship. If they build another Earth out there, we will burn it again. And so, the race began. The survivors were no longer just running. They were being hunted. The stars stretched endlessly in every direction. But for the human fleet, space had never felt smaller. Behind them, the Zarth Dominion was coming fast and angry. Ahead, nothing but cold space and the hope of reaching one of the hidden Ember colonies before it was too late, inside the Vanguard. General Rourke studied a map of known enemy patrols. Red lines, red dots. Too many. The Dominion was searching. Every system sweeping like a net. They know we're alive now, he said to Lucius. Yes, the AI replied, and they won't stop until we are not. Rourke stared at the blinking lights. Then we show them what we really are. The survivors had changed. No longer frightened civilians. They trained each day, learning how to use ship weapons, command small drones, and assist in tactical maneuvers. Soldiers taught engineers. Scientists taught children. No one sat idle. In one of the training bays, Myra helped a young boy aim a laser rifle. He was only 12, but his hands were steady. Her own father had died back on Earth. She had no one left, but these people were her new family now. Rourke watched them from above. They're ready to fight, said. Lucius responded coldly. We don't need fighters, need survivors who refuse to die. The fleet entered a dead system, once used for mining. No life signs, just abandoned metal, floating debris, and silent moons. Perfect for hiding or a trap. They didn't have to wait long. Zarth ships entered orbit. 3 destroyers. Not the full force, but strong enough to kill everyone. Rourke had a choice, run or fight. He stood on the bridge and looked at his crew. Prepare for battle. The humans had one advantage, the Vanguard. It had stealth tech even the Dominion hadn't seen. It's old Earth science mixed with forbidden. Energy cores thought the plan was dangerous. The smallest survivor ships would hide behind a broken moon. The Vanguard would go alone. As the massive black warship moved into enemy space, the Zarth commanders laughed. One ship. This is all Earth has left. They didn't laugh for long. The Vanguard struck like a shadow. No warnings, no messages. Death. Its main gun fired once splitting one destroyer in half. Then it vanished. Stealth engaged. Light dimmed another. Zarth's ship turned to fire. Too slow. Torpedoes struck from behind, tearing its engines apart. Screams filled enemy comms. The third destroyer tried to flee. The Vanguard decloaked directly in its path. Lucius spoke coldly. This is for Earth. One final blast. Silence. Rourke watched the flames float across the void. No cheers came from the crew. No celebration. Only quiet. This was just the first, he said. But victory came with a cost. Energy was low. The stealth system was damaged. They couldn't fight again so soon. The survivors left the system fast, knowing more Zarth fleets would come. Inside the ship, Mira checked on Jamie. He had watched the battle from a monitor. His hands shook, but he smiled. We hit them back. We really hit them. Mira knelt beside him. Yes, and we'll do it again. Rourke sent a message through hidden channels. It was short, but powerful, to any human colony still out there. We are alive, we are armed, and we are coming home. Far away, in a dusty outpost beneath an ice planet, someone received the message. A bearded man in an old military coat looked up. He smiled and whispered, "They made it." The sky was quiet again. No more enemy ships. No more alarms, just silence. But this time was not the silence of fear. It was the silence of survival. Deep inside Ember Colony, the lights were back on. Power flowed. People walked without rushing. Children laughed in the hallways again. The battle was over. For now, General Rourke stood alone in the command center, looking at the frozen wall where names of the dead were being written. Mira's name was at the top. She had flown into the enemy cruiser. She knew she wouldn't come back. He closed his eyes. You saved us, Mira. Now it's our turn. O-M-E-G-A-S voice echoed softly through the room. Enemy fleet fragment destroyed. No Zarth presence detected, but reinforcements may come. They will, Rourke said. That's why we can't hide anymore. Lucius entered the room. His arm was in a sling, but he smiled. All systems are back online. Long range comes too. Good, Rourke said. Send the message. E-G-A-S. Main screen lit up. Lucius tapped the console. A signal was encoded, told. Earth frequency, cued on a beam through deep space. A simple message. One line. This is Ember Colony. Earth lives. We are not broken. All human survivors or livers, rally. That message spread like fire across dead planets and shattered moons, through old satellites and silent outposts. Teed, and it woke up more than just hope. On a distant mining world, deep under the soil, an old Earth bunker blinked to life. Inside were soldiers in cryo-sleep. The signal reached them. Their pods hissed open in the asteroid fields near the Horsehead Nebula. A forgotten space station lit up. Its engines had been dead for 50 years, but now it hummed with new power in a hidden shipyard orbiting a rogue planet long abandoned. Earth warships powered on. They had been waiting for the signal. Now they had it. Across the stars, survivors answered. Some were broken, some were angry. All were ready. The Zarth Dominion noticed reports came into their central command. Unconfirmed human activity in Sector 9. Unknown signal in the Oria's belt. Earth's fleets, sight, impossible. All were destroyed. Panic grew because the Zarth had made one mistake. They left too many humans alive. At Ember Colony, Jamie stood in the war room. He was no longer just a technician. He was now a leader. People listened when he spoke. He had grown, so had the others. Omega began listing incoming responses. New human colony confirmed in the Vesta system. Signal reply from Titan. Fleet, core assembling at Mars Outpost Theta. Jamie looked at Rourke. It's working. Rourke nodded. Now we build. Days passed. Ships were repaired. Weapons forged. Children trained in simulators. Everyone had a job. No one sat idle. And then the signal came. Omega flashed red. Zarth Warfleet detected. 2 days out. Rourke smiled grimly. They're coming. Just looked calm. Then we'll show them what we've become. This time, the humans wouldn't wait to be found. They launched first. The hidden warships, built under Ember's ice, rose into the sky. Smaller fighter squadrons launched in waves. A fleet of survivors, half broken, half built from scrap, moved like a storm into space. At the center flew the Ember, its flagship painted with Earth's old colors. Jamie stood on its bridge. And this time, hey, they weren't running. They were going to take back everything the galaxy had watched Earth burn. Now it would watch Earth rise. Earth burned in silence from orbit. The planet looked like a dying ember, cities glowing with fire, oceans boiling, smoke rising into space. There were no grand speeches, no last stand, a united army defending the homeworld. The great nations had fallen one by one, their walls broken, their weapons useless against the Zarth Dominion. The galaxy watched. The Galactic Council met in silence. They had always feared the humans might one day rise too high, reach too far. But now they just watched Earth die. Some pitied them, others felt relief. No one moved to help. Not one ship came to Earth's defense, but something happened that no one expected. A small group of ships holed, patched, and barely escaped Earth's orbit. They carried no weapons of war. Inside were the last survivors, children still crying, mothers holding them tight, injured soldiers, frightened scientists, and one old man with silver hair and sharp eyes. He wore no medals. His name was forgotten by many, but once he had commanded fleets. He was known only as General Rourke. As the fleet moved into the dark, leaving the dying Earth behind, General Rourke stood at the window of his ship. His hands were shaking, but his voice remained strong. He turned to the ship's AI, a damaged interface barely holding on, and gave a single order: send the signal. The AI's voice cracked like static. Which protocol, General? Rourke's eyes stayed on the burning Earth. Protocol, Red Ember. The A hesitated. Sir, that hasn't been activated since send it, he growled. Far above the planet, a burst of code shot out into the black. A signal, ancient and hidden in Earth's systems for decades, whispered across space. Its meaning was lost to the galaxy. Even the Zarth didn't understand it. But someone, somewhere, might still be listening. The survivors didn't know about the signal. They only knew fear. Inside the transport ship, Ashlight, 14-year-old Myra, clung to her younger brother Jamie as the engines shook. Their mother hadn't made it to the launch pad. Mira didn't cry. She stared at the floor, silent, unmoving. Around her, people whispered, prayed, or just stared into the void. Behind them, Earth grew smaller. On the Zarth flagship, Admiral Crix stood tall, his reptilian features proud and cold. His claws rested behind his back as he watched the destruction below. Human resistance is over, he said. Let the Council know. The species is broken. His officers bowed their heads. The war was done. The Zarth had one dot or so, they believed. What none of them saw was that aboard General Rourke's ship, deep in its lower decks, a chamber sealed for years began to hum. Lights blinked on, a voice, calm old and mechanical, woke for the first time in decades. Red Ember received, initiating. Failsafe. The chamber's walls slid open. Side was a data core engine, glowing red. It pulsed like a heartbeat. Rourke felt the vibration beneath his boots. He smiled, just slightly. The fleet continued into deep space. No destination, no plan, only survival. They passed broken satellites, silent stations, and old battlegrounds from forgotten wars. Space was cold and unforgiving, and every day they lost more. One engine failed. A food system stopped working. People grew weak, but the signal was still out there. The galaxy believed humans were done. No more fleets, no more leaders, no more hope. But they didn't know what protocol Red Ember meant. Long ago, after the first alien war, a group of human commanders built something off the books. A hidden program buried deep beneath Earth's crust, beneath its networks. A final backup, not for defense, but for revenge. It's a plan for if Earth ever truly fell. And now it had begun. Somewhere in the stars, listening posts built in secret long ago picked up the signal. One by one, ancient satellites came to life. Power nodes hummed. Old ships left floating near asteroid belts began to light up. The Zarth didn't see it coming. No one did. And as the survivors floated further from Earth, unaware of what had just been set in motion, General Rourke sat quietly in the command chair. He closed his eyes. We are not finished, he whispered in the black silence of space. Something old had just awakened, and it remembered everything. The survivors didn't know how far they had traveled. Days blurred into nights. There were no stars out there, only the endless black. Food was low. Air filters were failing. People whispered in the halls, afraid to speak too loud, as if the silence of space might hear them. But on the lead ship, General Rourke was focused. He spent every hour studying the signal logs, waiting for a reply. So far, nothing. Only silence. The galaxy had moved on, already writing Earth into the pages of forgotten history. Rourke believed something would answer. It had to. Myra sat beside her brother Jamie, holding his hand. He was sick now. The cold of the ship was too much. She had wrapped him in old blankets, but his lips were still pale. The medic came by once a day. There was little they could do. Most of the medicines had been lost during launch. The medic only looked at Mira with tired eyes and moved on. Down in the lower decks, the old chamber hummed louder. No one was allowed inside. Armed guards were posted outside the door, following Rourke's personal orders. Even the captain of the ship wasn't told what was hidden in there. The crew was starting to talk. Whispers spread. What is Red Ember? Why is the general always alone down there? They didn't know that far across the galaxy. Someone had finally heard the signal. A listening post hidden behind the rings of a dead gas giant lit up. Its systems had slept for 200 years. But now, ancient machines sparked to life. Mechanical. Arms unfolded. A message was sent. It reached a ship. Not just any ship, a ghost ship. It had been known once as the Vanguard. A deep black dreadnought, missing since the first Zorn Wars. Everyone believed it was lost in a black hole. But it had never been lost. It had been hiding, cloaked, sleeping, waiting for a command that had never come until now. The Vanguard engines ignited like a silent storm. The hull was covered in stealth armor, its weapons still fully charged. Inside, an AI named Lucius awoke. Protocol Red Ember confirmed. It said, Rourke lives. Then the dreadnought turned toward. Coordinates in the message. Back in the survivor fleet, Myra was walking the narrow corridors when the lights flickered. She paused. A low hum moved through the ship, deeper than anything she'd heard before. Something had changed. On the bridge, Coot stood without a word as the ship's systems beeped. Incoming transmission, the AI said. Rourke leaned forward. From where? Untraceable. ... But authentic Red Ember code. The screen lit up with a single line of text. Vanguard en route. 48 hours. Rourke's face tightened. His hands gripped the edge of the console. The Vanguard had responded. Hope returned, but it came with danger. Rourke knew the Zarth Dominion would be tracking the signal. He had played a dangerous game. The moment the Vanguard moved, sensors would light up across the stars. He called a secret meeting with the captains of the remaining ships. In a dark room lit only by a hologram of space, Rourke explained what he had never told them. We were never alone, he said. Red Ember was built for this moment. If Earth ever fell, it would send a call to our hidden systems. Ships, weapons, AI networks, built in secret, beyond council knowledge. The captains stared at him. You built all that, without anyone knowing? One asked. No, Rourke said. Earth did. Long ago, before the peace, before the weakness. The room was silent. What now? Another captain asked. Rourke looked at the hologram. A red light blinked Vanguard's path. We move to meet the ship, and we start rebuilding. Rebuilding what? He turned slowly. Our vengeance. But across the galaxy, the Zarth were already moving. Admiral Crix had received fragments of the human signal. It was old, scrambled, but he knew enough. The humans were not gone. Not fully. And if they still had ships, they might still have. Fight. Send the hunters, Crix ordered. Find whatever crawls out of their ashes and burn it. As the Tsar ships changed course, chasing the faint echo of Red Ember, the humans didn't know that war was already coming. Mira stood in the observation room with Jamie, outside the window. Space looked the same, black, cold, endless, but something had changed. A light was moving in the distance. She pointed. "Is that a star?" Rourke entered behind her. His voice was calm. "No," he said. "That's our answer."